The noise arrived quickly, as it always does now, racing ahead of facts and context, flattening a complex human moment into a few alarming words that spread faster than truth ever seems to. Over the weekend, Marcus Freeman was not standing on a sideline or in a film room, not breaking down protections or correcting footwork, but sitting in a gym as a father, watching his son compete. It was supposed to be ordinary in the way family moments are supposed to be ordinary, the kind of space where football titles and national relevance do not matter. Instead, it became another reminder of how thin the line can be between private life and public scrutiny when your job places you under constant lights. Freeman was attending his son Vinny's wrestling match when a verbal exchange escalated between members of Freeman's family and an assistant wrestling coach, Chris Flieger. According to accounts later supported by video and police review, Vinny Freeman was being verbally accosted during his match. After the loss, Marcus Freeman did what most parents would instinctively do. He stepped in, escorted his son off the mat, and removed him from a situation that was growing increasingly uncomfortable. It was not a dramatic act, not a show of authority or anger, but a protective one, rooted in the simplest parental instinct: get your child out of harm's way. What followed was far louder than the moment itself. Flieger filed a police report accusing Freeman of assault. Once that report surfaced, it did not take long for the story to metastasize. Headlines stripped the situation down to its most combustible elements: a Notre Dame head coach, assault allegations, police involvement. Context was an afterthought, if it appeared at all. In an era where speed often matters more than precision, the accusation became the story before the facts had any chance to breathe. Notre Dame moved quickly, issuing a statement that supported Freeman and made clear the university believed he had not acted improperly. Video evidence would later reinforce that stance, showing that what had been described as assault amounted to incidental contact during a tense moment, nothing resembling battery or intentional harm. After reviewing the evidence, police dismissed the charges. There would be no case, no discipline, no legal consequences. From a procedural standpoint, the matter was over almost as quickly as it began. But for Freeman, it was never that simple. When he stepped in front of reporters later in the week, he had every opportunity to pivot. He could have redirected attention to recruiting, to the transfer portal, to preparations for the upcoming season, to any number of football-related topics that would have been far more comfortable and familiar. Instead, he chose to address the situation head-on. Before discussing scheme or strategy, before talking about roster construction or goals for the program, Freeman spoke about the incident. Not defensively, not angrily, calmly, deliberately, and with a sense of responsibility that has come to define his tenure at Notre Dame. He did not hide behind legal language or university statements. He did not try to portray himself as a victim of circumstance or media unfairness, even though parts of the coverage frustrated him. Freeman spoke plainly about what happened and why he acted the way he did. He framed it not as a misunderstanding to be exploited or a controversy to be escaped, but as a moment that demanded reflection. The reality is, I behaved in a respectable manner while protecting my family, and that should have been the only headline, Freeman said. That sentence captured both the simplicity of the moment and the complexity of the aftermath. Freeman acknowledged that he is held to a higher standard, not just as Notre Dame's head coach, but as a public figure whose actions are constantly examined. He did not dispute that scrutiny. Instead, he leaned into it, emphasizing that accountability does not disappear simply because charges are dropped or accusations are proven false. He also made a point to thank Notre Dame for standing by him before the video evidence became public. In a time when institutions often rush to distance themselves at the first sign of controversy, Freeman noted the significance of that support. It mattered to him not just professionally, but personally. Trust, once given, creates a sense of obligation in return. Freeman spoke as someone who understands that leadership is a two-way relationship built on credibility and consistency over time. There was disappointment, too, particularly with one media outlet that he said reported untrue details, sensationalizing a story before all the facts were available. Freeman chose not to name the outlet, resisting the temptation to turn the moment into a public feud. His frustration was evident, but it was measured. He spoke less about anger and more about sadness, about the ease with which half-truths can become accepted narratives and the damage that can cause not just to reputations, but to families. For Freeman, the most painful part of the experience was never the threat of legal consequences. It was the realization that a moment involving his child had been transformed into a national talking point. He spoke as a father first, explaining that his only intention that day was to remove his son from a hostile environment. He emphasized that once the full truth emerged, he trusted people would see that for what it was. That trust, he admitted, can be difficult to maintain in the modern media landscape, but he has not abandoned it. What stood out most was Freeman's refusal to absolve himself entirely, even as the legal system cleared him. He did not say he handled everything perfectly. He did not suggest there was nothing to learn from the experience. Instead, he framed it as another reminder of the responsibility he carries at all times. Whether he's on a practice field, in a press conference, or sitting in a high school gym supporting his child. That posture aligns closely with the way Freeman has approached his job since arriving in South Bend. He has often spoken about self-evaluation, about challenging himself and his program to be better, about owning mistakes rather than deflecting blame. In that sense, the way he handled this moment was not an outlier. It was consistent. Freeman does not separate his leadership philosophy into football and non-football categories. To him, it's all connected. How he responds to adversity off the field matters just as much as how he responds to a loss or a missed opportunity on Saturdays. There is also an unavoidable reality hovering around everything Freeman does right now. He's one of the most visible figures in college football, a young head coach at one of the sport's most iconic programs, regularly mentioned in connection with NFL interest and national broadcasts. With that visibility comes a scrutiny that is often unforgiving. Freeman did not complain about that reality. He acknowledged it, he accepted it, and then he reminded everyone that behind the titles and speculation, there is still a human being navigating real moments with his family. The incident, now resolved, will not define Marcus Freeman's career. It will not alter Notre Dame's trajectory or rewrite the story of his tenure in South Bend. But it did offer a revealing snapshot of who he is when placed in an uncomfortable spotlight. He did not duck questions, he did not hide behind legal outcomes. He spoke directly, took responsibility for his actions, and trusted that truth eventually would stand on its own. In a sport increasingly dominated by transactions, negotiations, and calculated messaging, moments of genuine accountability are rare. Freeman's willingness to address the situation openly, even after charges were dismissed, underscored something that cannot be measured in wins or rankings. It showed a leader who understands that credibility is built not just by being right, but by being transparent. Not just by being cleared, but by being accountable. When the headlines fade and the season moves forward, this moment will likely become a footnote in the larger story of Marcus Freeman's career. But for those paying close attention, it offered something more meaningful than controversy ever could. It offered a glimpse into the values that guide him when football is stripped away, when the stakes are personal, and when doing the right thing matters more than controlling the narrative.